Hello and welcome to another module wherein we are gonna talk about Azure DevOps YAML pipeline. Before getting into requirements, this module is going to be more of a in line with what generally happens in a day of a DevOps engineer. We are going to use some of the use cases from a production environment from a client, and we're going to see how you could just actually use Azure DevOps YAML pipeline, conglomerating all of your learning so far for release and YAMLs, and then getting into how you could just solve customers' problem for your CI/CD issues. So without further ado, let's get started. So as a DevOps engineer, what we have done so far is you had a requirement in front of you, right? You wanted to build infrastructure pipeline using Terraform primarily, and we built it using Terraform for Azure resources. We built a bunch of virtual machines, storage account, um, DNS, and bunch of other resources also. And all of this happened for one of the customers, and it happened using the GUI, wherein we were clicking through the GUI and creating an artifact, which was a CI cycle, wherein we learned about how you could just package your code, and then you could just deploy onto multiple environments like dev and production. However, it was easy to get started with. However, Microsoft doesn't recommend you to use release cycle, or rather, you should use YAML, and that's when we understood that we should start start learning about YAML, because YAML is the new edge Bible for any of the deployment tools. So you pick up any deployments like Kubernetes or Circle CI, GitLab, GitHub, all of them supports YAML. So what we did, we switched from the release UI release to YAML based pipeline. Our requirement was pretty same. You as a DevOps engineer was asked to create a YAML for all of your Terraform code for Azure infrastructure. You understood what you needed to build for an organization, and you then created a YAML pipeline on Azure DevOps integrated with your um, repository, and you kind of copy pasted the YAML snippet from your release, if you remember, and then pasted onto your Azure DevOps.yaml file, and then you got started with. Pretty easy to get started with, and then you got a knack of it, that how the pipeline, that pipeline kind of looks like if you had to create it from scratch. This was all fine to get started with. Now your client has a new requirement wherein he is saying that, okay, you as a DevOps engineer need to make some changes in your pipeline. He's not happy about the manual approval, because every time somebody tries to deploy any infrastructure, you got to go ahead on Azure DevOps and see if the plan, validate the plan, and see if they are in destruction or not. And he's not pretty happy with the manual steps, and what he wants is to, he has got basically four requirements. He wants you to remove all the snippets which you have copied from the release cycle, and he wants you to add a custom download URL for Terraform so that you could variabilize it and use it from the HashiCorp official website. He also has a requirement wherein if there are no destruction in Terraform for infrastructure, he doesn't want any approval gate. He just want you to go ahead and deploy if there are no destruction. However, on the contrary, he wants you to create a condition wherein if there are any destruction, there should be a manual approval, wherein you could just review the destruction, then decide whether you need to reject or approve. And all of them, important part, all of them has to be done using the YAML release pipeline. So you can't use the GUI, and yeah, that's pretty much the requirement from the client. So now you as a DevOps engineer have a thinking hat now, and what you've done is you've collaborated all of your information, all of your knowledge so far, whatever you have done so far in your career and in the course so far, and what you have come up with a plan is you're gonna have three stages. The first stage is gonna be build and plan for Terraform, wherein it's gonna visualize what's building and what's cooking inside Terraform. And if the pipeline finds anything is destructive, it is gonna have a manual approval step. And if it it reads the plan. If it finds that it has no destruction, only changes and addition of infrastructure, he is happy, and there shouldn't be any approval still, and your pipeline should be robust enough to deploy it automatically. All right, that's about the requirement from the client. I hope you are quite aware about the client requirement now and now ready to get started and get your idea, get your thinking to a working pipeline now. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's start DevOpsing our solution. I'll see you in a while. Thank you.